Okay. Oh, great. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Sunny Shi. I'm currently a senior designer at Styles of Urbanism. And today I'll give you a prep on the portfolio and what that means for the undergraduate art or design schools. Yep. So what is covered today? Today we'll be covering some of the best art design architecture schools and what they're looking for. The differences between a 5-year BR and a 4-year degree, and some overall like portfolio tips. And we'll give a very, very brief introduction of what is Millie Studio, and we'll have some time at the end for the Q&A session. So we can get started. Yeah, so in the process, feel free to put your questions in the chat. And if it's appropriate, I'll answer on the spot. If not, I'll answer in the back. So I guess do you want to be an artist, right? So if so, this is really the presentation for you. I would assume most of you are in high school, or the parents of high school students. So I'll go over different kind of arts, right? So the one you see earlier was by Salvador Dali, and so there's a surrealist painting, and these are other types such as the sculpture and installation art. So here is installation art by Taiguo Chiang, and yep, here is another piece by Wolfgang Lake, which is very, very ephemeral, very beautiful. He uses yellow like pollen and scattered it around the room. And a piece by Crystal and Jean-Claude. These are very, very large scale, almost like architecture type of art, and also very beautiful. Another piece by Crystal and Jean-Claude. So you can see from the variety of different slides, there are many different type of art out there, right? Such as ceramics, conceptual art, drawings, paintings, printmakings, photography, filmmaking, sculpting, glasswork, literary art, performance art, culinary art, and other combination of these. So there's many different choices that you can actually go and explore. Or you're here because you want to be an architect, right? So here you have the beautiful Indian step walls, the vernacular architectural typology found in India. Or here you have like the contemporary architecture by Peter Zumthor. So this is the Witchcraft Trial Memorial. Or some other contemporary architecture such as the Parking Garage by Hirazi Miran. And here you have Peter Eisenman's Memorial to the Murdered Jews. So you can also see the architecture also comes in different shapes and sizes, forms and textures, colors and contrast. So there's many different things you can do within the field of architecture as well. But did you know that apart from you can be an architect, there are actually many other type of design professionals out there, such as product design, apparel, fashion design, textile design, furniture design, graphic, interiors, urban design, planning, UI UX, multimedia art and animation. There's also you can be a video game designer, a web designer, an art director. You can go into advertising and promotions. You can go into film and video editing, exhibition, set design, floral design, jewelry design, metalwork, and so on. So there are just so many different types of art and design practice out there. So before you apply to any one of them, you should really do your homework and try to check out the different things out there. And currently, I'm actually working in landscape architecture. Contrary to popular belief, it's not just gardening. It's not just like someone who mow your lawn, but it's people who actually design parks and open spaces, plazas, and other spaces that are outdoor, right? Mostly for people to enjoy on a nice, beautiful Saturday afternoon or after school, like this, showing the picture here. So here is a beautiful park, the Era Taylor Fountain Park by Lawrence Halpern. And also landscape architecture can also be very creative as well. Right? So here you have the Australian Gardens by Taylor Lithium. And the most famous landscape architecture example would be Central Park. This is one of the most famous contemporary, well, not so contemporary, more like 150 years old park that's found in New York City. So just a little bit about me. I'm just going to skip through the small text because nobody really likes to read. So I will talk about me a little bit just through images. That way, you kind of understand how did I come to this. So just like you, right? I always liked art growing up. So these are some paintings I did in 2006 when I was in high school, probably around your age. And from there, I went on to do my Bachelor of Architecture degree at Cornell University. So here are some pictures of a project I did back then called Nature Does Not Exist. This is from 2012. And for my thesis at Cornell, I explored the subject area of sublime and how do you artificially create it through models and drawings of photography. So here are some photos of the models I made. Right, and then presented that thesis to a panel of judges. So you can see I really didn't generate one design, but rather an array of different designs. Right, and then I went on to become, an actual designer in New York City, working on very large scale residential work. So this one's built in Kendall Square in Cambridge, and some other projects in China. And after that, I actually went on to do my graduate studies. So here are some pictures of me in graduate school. This is around 2015-16. And again, I did a thesis there, where here I was exploring the relationship of Canada-US, especially the border that's found between them. And after that, right, I went into teaching a little bit. So I taught the summer program at Harvard for the architecture program, and then also last year I taught a studio at University of Calgary at the Master of Architecture level. And currently, like I mentioned earlier, I work in landscape architecture. So here are some of the projects I worked on. So this is the East Boston Charlestown resilience study. So a lot of the work we do now actually looks at, city and very large areas and how to come up with, resiliency solutions for them. Because as you know, climate is changing, right? And there's many other effects that come with it, such as sea level rise and storm surges. So how do you actually protect cities and neighborhoods, especially the edges of cities, from such events? So here you can see the same park being flooded by a storm. And we also work with cities on their larger infrastructural projects. So here you have the Shoto Greenway, which is a greenway in the city of St. Louis that connects the north and south, the east and west. And here's a great perspective showing how that looks and feels. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking about me and talk about your future. The reason why I talked about that was really to help you understand, like, right now maybe you're interested in art, right, or interested in painting, photography, whatever it is, and you're trying to think about how that can actually translate, right, into a design practice. And definitely can. It might take a few years, but it's very possible for someone to transition from art into architecture or into product design or something like that. You just got to go through schooling and go through different internships, different jobs, and then eventually you will be closer to the type of artist or designer that you want to become. So yeah, now I'm just going to talk to you about a few of the best art, design, architecture schools, and hopefully you will be interested in some of them. Yeah, so there are many good art schools, right? So here is a list of some of the best art schools in the world, such as the Royal College of Art, uh, the Parsons School of Design, RISD, MIT, uh, Polytechnico de Milano, University of Arts London, Pratt Institutes, School of Art, Institute of Chicago, Alder University, and Stanford University. And there, here are some of the best design schools. As you can see, the list overlap with the previous list a little bit. RISD is one of them. Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Media Lab is one of them. University of Cincinnati, Carnegie Mellon. I'm just going to skip the ones we talked about already. B School, right, which is at Stanford. Art Center College of Design. Rochester's Institute of Technology, the College of Imaging Arts and Sciences. New York University, the School of Arts. Copenhagen Institute of Interaction Design. The California College of Arts, and University of Southern California, and so on. So yeah, there are many good schools out there, right? And the goal isn't really to just look at a list and say, oh, I want to go to the best one, but really, go into the school's websites and the publications that they put out there and see which of these schools is best fitted for you and which program is best fitted for you. Because each one of these schools have a different faculty, right? And have a different set of classes that you may be interested in working with or taking in. So that's very important for you to do these research before going in. And also you be engaged in very different environments, right? And projects. So here you have the Royal College of Art, right? And the interior shots of their studio spaces and their gallery spaces. Or in Parsons, right? Like if you're a city person, you want to go to New York City. Parsons is in the heart of New York, right? It's at 14th Street, and they just got a brand new building. Very cool. And you can study a variety of different design art classes there, such as fashion design or textile design, right? And also marketing. And RISD is set in Providence, Rhode Island, which is a very cute little city. And it's right beside Brown University. So the students at both universities can actually take classes at each other's campuses. So, if you want a more overall rounded experience, maybe RISD is actually a good school to be at. And they offer classes in architecture, fashion design, along with others. And Brooklyn, right? Pratt in Brooklyn is also a very, very nice school. This school has a very industrial setting and also a very industrial history. So, if you like metalworking, if you like architecture, Pratt offers a lot of different good classes, majors. And the same goes for the best architecture schools. There are many good architecture schools out there, and here's consistently the top 10 schools that have been on the list. This is a design intelligence list published in 2020. And every year, Design Intelligence will survey the different both alumni and also employers to see which schools are producing students that are really suitable for the workplace. So here, some of the schools include Cornell, RISD again, Rice, Cooper Union, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Pratt Institute, Cal Poly, UT Austin, and SciArc. As you can see that the ranking goes back and forth, so I wouldn't mind too much about the ranking, but rather, again, look at these schools and then the different classes and faculties they have there. And, Cambridge, these are the best schools in the UK, right? If you're interested in going to the UK, here you have Cambridge, UCL, the AA, University of Bath, Royal College of Art, University of Sheffield, London Metropolitan University, Glasgow School of Art, and Kingston University. So, you may ask, what is the biggest difference between a 5-year BArch versus a 4-year BA or BS in architecture degree? And there are many different types of degrees you may receive at the undergraduate level. Here is a very brief explanation of each. So for example, if you are, I guess the biggest differences, right, is that if you're interested in practicing architecture in the US in the future, then the BArch is the degree that will allow you for licensure. So the other degrees, you will require a master's degree after that. It doesn't matter if it's a BA or a BS, you will be needing to do a Master of Architecture, the 3.5 years or 3-year degree after that. So that's the professional equivalent of the Bachelor of Architecture. So the BSA, the BSAS are more geared towards sciences, and they have they really emphasize on analytical and problem-solving skills, whereas the Bachelor of Arts and Architectural Studies, really are on the other side of things, right? So more like the liberal arts, writing and reading. So in a way, you can also look at the different offerings, right, the school have. Sometimes the school might only offer a BS in architecture or BA in architecture. And then at that point, you have to kind of weigh and see, is doing a 5-year now better for you, or doing like a 4-year and then 3.5 years after that better for you? And of course, there's a different ranking for the graduate school level architecture schools, because actually most of the Ivy League universities or other larger research institutions offer architecture degree at the graduate level. So you have Harvard, Columbia, MIT, Yale University, Cornell, Princeton, Rice, RISD, UPenn, and University of California, Berkeley. So a lot of these, these schools you didn't see on the previous list is because they only offer it at the graduate level and not on undergraduate level. And different organizations have different rankings. So for example, the one published here by the World QS puts MIT and Delft on top of the list, right? So just take a look at different lists and see which schools, which setting, which city you're interested in. And here are some photos of some of them. For example, Cooper Union in New York City has a beautiful building by MorphoSys, which is a firm headed up by Tom Ming. You can see the interiors of their engineering building. The architecture building is actually right beside. It's in a slightly older building, but also equally as cool. The MIT School of Architecture and the Media Lab, right? Currently, that's in the dome space here on their main campus. And this is the Media Lab building. You also have Cornell. So this is the Milstein Hall designed by OMA, Office of Metropolitan Architecture. And Cornell is set in Ithaca, which is a very beautiful small city in the Finger Lakes. So you can actually go for a swim or go for a hike when you're not taking classes. Yep, so here's a floor plan of Milstein Hall, and some kind of the studio spaces inside that you can work in. And of course, like one of the best things about Cornell, I mean, I went to Cornell, so I experienced this with Dragon Day, so which is the first year architecture students actually get to build a very large dragon and parade it around campus around St. Patrick's Day, so in March. And this dragon on the left is the one that we built. Here's me. And this tradition has been around for over 100 years. Right, and then also the graduate level, later on in your lives, you could pursue, graduate school. And here you have Harvard GSD, and students working very late at nights. Or you can, go to the AA, the Architectural Association in London, and every year they have the students build this pavilion right in front of their school. It's very cool. Right, what if you want to be very experimental? Bartlett School of Architecture is a place for that. So yeah, I mean, all the pictures look cool, right? So you might have a question in your head. It's like, so can I get in? Short answer is yes, but it's very competitive and it's becoming more and more so. So this is something I guess students probably are aware, but don't know exactly how competitive. Cornell accepted 4.78% of applicants in 2015, and that number just keeps getting lower every year. So this is slightly old data, 6 years ago. So how do I best prepare myself? And for these schools, you really need to have a full package, which means good grades, good essays, recommendation letters, interviews, and also an excellent portfolio. So the excellent portfolio, I think it's the the addition part, that your peers who are applying for other majors don't really need to prepare, or even the interview. Right? So many architecture schools require interview, either virtual or on site, either with their alumni or with just a professor on the campus. And the portfolio, you need to spend a lot of time preparing. If you're in 9th, 10th grade right now, great, perfect. That's a really good time for you to start preparing. Right? If you're in 11th or 12th grade, then I really hope you started preparing for a portfolio, and you need to spend the next 1 year or 2 years really honing it down. And I'll just go into the portfolio just a little bit and talk about it as a thing that's required. So every portfolio is unique and different, but some are better than others. That's said by me. Portfolio requirements, they're typically 10 to 15 pieces, and you can use a different range of media, right? So the school actually want to see your obviously you want to see your creativity, but they want to also see if you're interested in exploring different media, such as painting, sculpture, collage, drawing, photography, installation, conceptual art, video, etc. Right? Or they can all be the same media. So for example, if you're really, really good or really passionate about like photography, you can have your whole photography portfolio, right? And just have that as what you apply with. Or if you really love painting, then yeah, just paint away and have like 10 or 15 pieces of painting. That's totally fine. I think that's the combinations of different media, different pieces are really up to you. And explore a central theme or themes, right? So this is very important. So here, what I'm trying to say is you need to have a narrative or like a storytelling for your portfolio. So that's what the school is actually looking for. Like, can you use through images and through your words, tell a story that has a starting point, right? And has a climax in the middle and then have an ending. And how do you actually compose that story, right? The narrative arc, people call it, is very important. And at the same time, like, does it touch upon topics or themes that you're interested in? So, if you're really interested in climate change as a topic, are some of your pieces talk about that? Or are you interested in like you as a subject matter, right? Like, I'm exploring in myself and my growth, right? For example, that's something else that it's totally fine. I think they're less concerned about what theme you choose, but more like they want to know you better through the work you do. And the last point is really about consistency, right? So through your labeling, through your descriptions, through your very simple layout, they just want to see that you you know how to just put something together that carries through the portfolio. And this actually goes for like, like the way you begin to talk about these pieces, right? Both the short description you write and also the labels. So like, oh, what media did I use? What dimensions did I do independently? What was the instructor? Did I do in a school setting, right? Who was my teacher? So on. So those things you can really help to tie together the portfolio as well. And what are they looking for in these pieces is really, does the student have the eye? What I mean by here is like, can the student see the world through their own perspective? Do they have a sensibility, right? Is the student a creative problem solver? Is a student dedicated, ambitious, or committed? And a student open-minded, experimental, and dares to try new things? So here are some of the things that they're looking for. Because, for example, if you're applying for architecture school or for a fashion school, I'm sure most of the pieces you do in high school wouldn't necessarily be architecture or or fashion, and that's okay. That's okay because the creativity and the sensibility actually translates across media. So you're painting about something can actually translate very easily into your sensibility for textiles or for architecture. So all they're looking for is that creativity, right? That open-mindedness and that experimentalness, so that they know that when you are designing architecture or fashion, you have the same kind of drive and the same kind of eye for those kind of work. And they're also looking for these things, which is like what do you want to do, and do you have patience, and do you also know what's the difference between good and bad? So the last point is very important because don't include everything. They're only really looking for 10 to 16 pieces, something like that, 10 to 15 pieces. So really curate your portfolio and to make each piece matter, right? You don't want to have some really, really good work and some really, really not good work. Just to pick your best work, right? Sometimes that leaves enough room for people to imagine that the other pieces you have are equally as good as the ones you're showing. Yeah, so some tips from me. Find your strengths, and think really, really hard about what you're good at, and really focus on those strengths. I'm not saying you shouldn't go explore other media, definitely explore, but at the same time, if you know you're really good watercolor painter, then try to let that side shown, right? Be more prominent in your portfolio. Don't copy others' work and be creative. Yeah, so this is an interesting point. There are a lot of nice photography or paintings out there that you want to emulate and copy and learn from. That's totally fine. But for a portfolio, I think it's better to show your creative side. So try to be original in both the subject matter and also the compositions that you're working with. Go out there and find things that you're interested in, take photos, or do drawings, do paintings, do conceptual art about them. The next point is learn from observation of the surrounding, especially in nature. There's so much to learn from nature, right, and the world around us. So, a good designer is always someone who notices what's happening around them and learn from those. So that's something, as a daily practice, you should begin to do. And the schools are constantly looking for someone who is both able to work with conceptually and also abstractly. So don't just make literal pieces. As in, like, don't just do portfolio pieces that are about still life or about figure drawings, right? Try to try to abstract them, try to conceptualize them, try to think of pieces to do that are more about meaning, right, and the message behind. Because that way, that kind of the same kind of conceptual thinking translate very nicely into different design practices. And if you're applying to art school, don't just make it architectural. I think they're also interested in you and your other interests at the same time, just like because you haven't gone through the education, right, for architecture school, the architecture you design now will most likely be not as good as they can be. So I will focus on doing art and doing pieces that show your demonstration in spaces rather than just go on to design architecture. That could be a very useful tip for you. Yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, think about the narrative arc. Start and end with your best work. Because the professors or the people who are looking through your portfolio typically look it through very fast. You want to immediately capture their attention, right, and begin to go from there. And you also want to end on a good impression. So hence why the stars and end with your best work. Then in the middle, you can talk about some of the different the journeys and things you think. Yeah, so if there were any questions about whatever I just said, please feel free to type it in the chat. And the next little bit, I'll just talk about Millie Studio a little bit, which is the organization I'm part of. So in summary, we have a lot of experiences providing portfolio tutoring and classroom experience, 100% online. And we have the online platform that enables this. So to learn more, please DM us. In the meantime, let's meet the team. So it's not just me. I'm one of them. So there's many other talented teachers at Millie Studio Summer Program. We have Joe Kennedy, who graduated from the Media Lab in Cornell. We have Grace, who graduated from the Harvard GSD and the Chulalongkorn University in Thailand. We have Anthony, who is a current last year students at the Master of Design Studies in the Art and Public Domain at the GSD, Harvard GSD, and previously graduated from Cornell. And we also have Albert Chen, who graduated with dual degree from University of Pennsylvania and previously from CN University of Architecture and Technology. We have Angela Marilono Long, who is finishing up her degree at Harvard in the landscape program and previously was a planner from Cornell. And there's me. And we teach, different things, right? And then it's a teaching team that are composed of artists, architects, urban and landscape designers, researchers, planners, teachers, fabricators, and curators, and furniture makers. So between the six of us, there's an array of different skill sets and interests. And we also speak different languages, such as English, Chinese, Spanish, French, Italian, and Thai. And currently, we're all working across many different art and design industries. So some of the, the things you'll learn in the program include drawing and drafting, understanding space, light, shadow, and texture, improve hand modeling skills, and begin to explore and document the urban surrounding, and understand what is good design and what is good representation. So, if you choose to participate in any of the programs, here are some of the skills that you can actually learn. So yeah, I went through the slideshow very fast, actually, just so I can have more time in the end for Q&A. So yeah, please shoot me your questions. I'm happy to answer. Thank you. Yep. So I see a question from Key, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and he or she asks, do you think it's better to pursue interior design or architecture design? I'm more interested in interior, but I've read that studying architecture will provide you with more opportunity compared to just IT. Um, that's a really good question. I think there's really no problem or issue in you pursuing either one of them. The difference is, in my opinion, for interior design, architecture design, one is obviously interior is more about the inside, where architecture, you learn about both the outside and the inside. So if you know, right, from however old or where you are now, that you want to do interiors for your career, then yeah, by all means, please pursue interior design. But if you're not quite sure yet and want to explore other things, architecture will be a good bridge for you to do that. So many people actually start with architecture studies, and then they pursue uh, some other discipline afterwards, because architecture just serves a very good introduction for those things, because it will touch upon interior design, it'll touch upon landscape and urban design, right? It'll touch about regional planning, it'll touch upon hand modeling, handcrafting, digital drawing, digital rendering, and all those different things. Not saying that you won't do that with interior design, but architecture is a slightly more comprehensive study in that sense. Is that helpful? I don't see any one of you, so it's hard for me to gauge what's the reactions I'm getting. Is there any questions? Oh, so there's another question about, I was wondering if you know a lot about Bauhaus University and how difficult it is to get in. Um, Unfortunately, no, I don't know a lot about Bauhaus University. Um, what I guess what interests you about it? Um, are you like interested in the Bauhaus movement? Um, if so, I think there are many schools that kind of continued that tradition, right? You can check out like IIT, the Illinois Institute of Technology, and there's many other schools in the US and UK that kind of continue that tradition. So I don't think that will be the only school in the world that offers that kind of education. Do you have other questions, Keith? Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me today, Millie. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out via the DM or other social media or email.